Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be sharing with you how to make a cargo pant. Sorry, it's a bit rumpled. I had to make it without light. So without wasting much time, let's dive right into the video. So I went ahead to mark the full length. The length I'm working with is 45 and I added 2 inches for folding. So if you're making a high waist trouser, you'll be minusing 2 inches, which you'll be using for your band. I'm just making a normal waist trouser, so I'll start my measurement and I'll go ahead to mark the hip, where the hip point will be. I marked 9 inches. You can use 8 or 9 inches. So if you're making a high waist trouser, you're going to minus 2 inches for your band, just like I said. And I'm just making a normal waist trouser. I'm just going to keep my tape where at the beginning, and to get your crouch for a normal trouser, you're going to do your hip divided by 4, but for a high waist trouser, you're going to do your hip divided by 3. And whenever I'm making a trouser, I always add extra 1 inch to my crouch, because I don't want my crotch area to be very tight on the person I'm working with or working for. So I'm just going to mark the crotch line. So I'll just go ahead to indicate so that you're not going to get confused, the hip and the crotch line. So when making a cargo pants, marking the knee length is not really important, but I'm just going to do it for trouser sake. So I'm just going to mark the waist to the knee point. So I'm going to just write out that part as knee. So the next, I'll be marking my crotch extension, my front line crotch extension, and to get that is your crotch divided by 4. Whatever you get, you're going to still divide it. So for example, a hip of 40, you're going to do 40 divided by 4, you have 10, and 10 divided by 4, you have 2.5. So your front crotch extension is going to be 2.5. So I'm going to go ahead and mark it at the waistline and also mark it at the crotch line. After that, I'm just going to place my tape and I'm going to come up by 2 inches for my crotch line, and I'm going to connect it back to the crotch line. Now I'm drawing my crotch curve. So now you're going to start inserting your waist measurement at the waist point. So at the waist, I'm going to mark my waist circumference divided by 4, and I will be adding 1 inch. Why is that? Because trouser does not require much allowance. So after marking that, I'm going to go down to the hip point and I'm going to mark the hip circumference divided by 4, and I'm going to go ahead to mark 1 inch sewing allowance. So that's that for that. After marking it, the next step I'm going to take is to connect from my waist down to the hip, and from the hip I'm just going to give it a slight curve. The trouser doesn't really need much curve on it, and whatever I have there, I will be taking it down to the full length of the trouser. So after marking that, at the lower part of the trouser, I'm just going to measure about 10 inches. So that's 20 inches divided by 2. I have 10. I'm just going to mark. So if you want yours to be wider, you can just use the full length, or you can just come in by 3.5 or 3 inches from that point. So I don't want mine to be too wide, so I'm using 20 inches for the down length. So next, after that, I'm going to just connect from the lower part down to the tip of my crotch. So if you want your knee side to be a bit tight or fitted, you can go ahead to insert your round knee measurements, but I'm just going to take what I have from that part, trace it down to the lower part of my trouser. So after tracing it out, what I'm going to do is at the waistline, I'm going to be coming down by 1 inch, and from that point I'm going to slant it into the waist, to the other part of the waist. So after doing that, what I'll do is just to cut out my cargo pants pattern. So at this point, if you haven't yet subscribed, please hit on the subscribe button. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and leave your comments at the comment section. So after cutting out, what I went ahead to do was to place this on another fabric, and we are going to trace it out for the back pattern. So at the front part of my crotch, I'll be adding 2 inches, and also I'll be extending my crotch front extension by 2 inches also, and I'm going to mark that out. So from there, I'm just going to connect it down to that point and connect it upwards too. So what I'm going to do is to go back and mark about 1.5 or 2 inches up, because we removed from the front part, and the back part of the trouser is usually higher than the front part. So after that, I'm just going to measure the waistline of my front trouser. So what you're going to do is, at this point, that 2 inches point, you're going to place your tape and you're going to mark that waistline you measured at the front part. So why are you doing this? So that the waistline in front and at the waistline at the back is going to correspond while joining, and you're not going to have any issues. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I have exactly what I marked. So after doing that, I'll be connecting it to the hip. To do that, I'll be lifting up the hip part, and I'm going to indicate where the hip is on this front, on the back fabric, and I'm just going to connect it back to the waistline. So on my trouser, what I'm going to do is, at my knee length, I'll be marking 1.5 inches, and at the trouser length, at the lower part of the trouser, I'll be marking 1 inch. So right, you can go ahead and just mark 2 inches down, but I don't want my cargo pants to be too big. So the person I'm making it for wants a fitted effect at the knee line. If not, you're just going to mark 2 inches to the lower part, and at the lower part, I'm just going to mark 1 inch. So what I will do is to go ahead to connect the lines. So after connecting, this is what I have. So if you have any part of this tutorial you do not understand, please go down to the comment section and leave your question. So I've gone ahead to cut out the back pattern, and next thing we are going to do is to join the trouser. So the first step I'll be taking is to go ahead and fold the lower part of my trouser. I'm just going to fold it with 1/2 and 1 inch. So now you're going to be indicating where you want your pocket to be, and I'll just go in by 7 or 8 inches is okay. So for the length of the trouser, you can go ahead to use from 10 to 13 inches, just depending on what you want exactly. So I'll place my ruler and connect a line straight up. So I'm just indicating where my pocket will be. So from that part, I will just come in by 3 inches, and I'll measure like 6 or 7 inches downwards. And what I'm going to do is to 7.5, you can use 7 inches, and you're just going to slant it to that part, and you're going to leave about 1/2 or 1 inch, because you're going to connect it right back to the trouser. So right, these are the pieces I cut out for my pocket, which is about 7.5 inches. I added half, making it 8 inches by 12 inches, because I'm going to fold it round. So you can go ahead to cut out this mark, and you're going to attach it at the back, or you're just going to attach it in front. So before doing that, I'm going to attach it in front. So what I'm going to do is just to trace out the shape I have. So to do that, I'm just going to lift my trouser up, and I'm just going to follow the shape and give about 1/2 inch round it, because I'm just going to fold the tip before sewing on it, because you're going to fold it. So after cutting it out, you're going to just trace what you have. So after tracing it, I'm just going to go ahead to the sewing machine, and I'm going to fold that part in. So after folding it in, you're going to place it. This is it, and this is what I have. So I'm just going to go ahead and to fold this with 1/2 and 1/2, and I'm going to place it, and I will top stitch it on top of my main trouser, the front part of my trouser this way. I'm going to stitch on this part, stitch on the lower side also. I'm going to fold on the lower side, and at the upper part you can just hold it down because you're going to use band to cover up that side. So after stitching this is what I have. Right now we are going to be joining the flap area or the zipper parts, fly zipper of this dress. So you're going to measure about 2.5 or 2 inches by 8. So I cut out 2 inches by 8, and you're going to just draw a curve. So since I already have a curve at that part, I just went ahead to just measure out 8 inches that I need, and I cut it out. So you're going to be needing 2 pieces of this. So now I'll be bringing back the trouser this way, and I will be joining it up. So this part, you see this part that is straight, I'm going to place it, and I'm going to run a stitch with 1/2 inch. So you're going to be sewing on the right side. So after stitching it, this is what I have. This is the wrong side and this is the right side. So you're going to take your zipper, and you're going to make sure the wrong side of the zipper is facing you and the right side is facing your zipper flyer or flap that you cut out, and you're going to place it and push your zip up a bit. So I'm going to stitch half on that part. So after stitching with 1/2 inch, this is what I have here. So right now we are going to be joining it to the other side. So to join it to the other side, what I'm going to do is to take this way, and I'm going to place it on the zipper this way. Are you seeing how it is? And after placing it, I'm going to take the other zipper flyer or flap that I cut out, and I'm going to place it. I'll make sure the curvy part is going inwards and the straight part is facing directly at the part coming out. And I'm going to go ahead, go over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to stitch with 1/2 inch. Stitch immediately after your zipper this way. After stitching it up, this is what I have. So you're going to flip it this way. Now you're going to be stitching up your trouser. So immediately where your zip stopped, you're going to stitch with 1/2 inch down to the end. So after stitching, this is what you're going to do. Next, you're going to fold this way, and you're going to stitch, you're going to just top stitch and give it a design at this point. After top stitching, this is what you're going to have. So I just top stitch with little, and this is it. So moving on right now, this is what my back looks like. So for the back part of my dress, I went ahead to cut out a pocket, and I cut out the cover also. So the length of and the width is 4 inches by 8, and for this pocket I have 8 inches by 6. So it's the back pocket, you don't want it to be too big. So what I'm just going to do is to top stitch on it this way. You're going to first of all fold the mouth. After folding the mouth, you're going to place it and top stitch, and you're going to make sure it's about 2 or 3 inches away from the band, the waistline of your trouser. So now for the side, for the center, I made sure I had about 1.5 inches far apart from the joining from the center. So I'm done top stitching my pocket, and I went ahead to turn up the cover. So I cut out 2 pieces for each side of the cover. I'm just going to fold it in. After folding it in, I'm just going to place it, and I'm going to top stitch, place it and top stitch on top of the pocket. After sewing, this is what I have, and you're going to take the right side of the front part and the right side of the wrong side, and you're going to place it together. So what you're going to do now is to stitch up the sides with 1/2 inch, because we are trying to create the pocket for the side part of the trouser. So since we added 1 inch, we have used half and half, so we are left with half and half. Now to attach your trouser, you're just going to place it open this way. Sorry, to attach your pocket, you're going to open it up this way, and you're going to measure from your waistline to 18 inches, or you're going to place your tape and get your knee line. After marking your knee line, you're just going to come up about 3 or 4 inches from that point. So that is where you'll be attaching your side pocket. So for my side pockets, I went ahead to cut about 8 inches by 11. Now the width is very long because I'm trying to create a fold by this side, those fold by the side. So I'm going to do that. That's why I cut that's very long, and I'm going to go ahead to fold it in, fold the mouth, and I'm going to top stitch on it. So just the same way I did the cover for the back, I'm going to do the cover for this also. I cut out 2 pieces, and I'm going to also top stitch on it. So after sewing the pocket for the side, what I'm going to do is to go ahead to stitch this up with 1/2 inch. You're going to go ahead to turn it to the wrong side, and you're going to stitch it now up. After stitching it up, we are going to the waistline. So for the waistline, I went ahead to cut these strips. This is 2.5 inches by 4 inches, but I went ahead to cut it down to 3 inches later. You're just going to fold this up. You're creating a band for your belt. This is your belt holder. So I created about 6 pieces of this. I'll be attaching 2 in front, 2 by the side, and 2 at the back also. So you're going to fold it up and attach. So I'm just going to pin it just to show you the way it's going to look like. So this is what you're going to do. After top stitching, you're just going to go ahead to attach it on the waistline. So this is my band. I'm doing a 2-piece band. So this is about 2 inches the width, and the length, I measured the waistline I have round, and I added 2 inches or 1.5. You can add. Why? Because I'm going to go ahead, place this, leave about 1.5 inches, and I'm going to go ahead and sew it round the waistline. After sewing it round my waistline to the other point, I'm just going to leave about 1/2 inch at this edge also. So I'm done sewing, and this is what I have. I went ahead to pin up the belt holder on the waist. I cut out about few inches out from the belt holder. Then you're going to take the second band, and you're going to place it on it. You're going to join it to your first band this way with 1/2 inch, right side facing right side, and you're going to sew with 1/2 inch, joining it at the upper part. So after I'm done stitching it, I'm just going to go ahead to fold it over this way. I'm just going to turn it up, and after turning it, I'm going to top stitch it back to the waistline of the trouser, giving it a neat finishing at the waist. So with this, we call it a wrap on this tutorial. Thank you for watching, and see you in our next video.